the nerve to say.
Our family, the Powell family, would like to address you all.
We were together.
Please bear with me. This is one of the most difficult things I've ever done.
One day, our love was gone.
We'd like to start by thanking you all for the outpouring of love and the passing.
Next year, let's call this day our anniversary.
You all are here celebrating and remembering.
If I should lose you, girl.
Again, we cannot thank you enough for your love.
Gloria, my Gloria.
Let's honor Jesse in a major way. God bless you all.
From this day forward, always something from this day forward.
Why did the industry throw away one of the best voices of his generation? Jesse Powell had the voice. Not just a voice, the voice. That once-in-a-generation, stop-you-in-your-tracks kind of talent, the type of range that could make you feel something in your chest. But despite having a Billboard hit, a loyal fan base, and a voice that even made Aretha take notice, Jesse vanished. No retirement tour, no headline farewell, just gone. And then came the news. One day after his 51st birthday, he quietly passed away at home. No cause of death released, no industry tribute, no trending hashtags, just silence. So how does someone like that, a soul singer built for longevity, get erased? Was Jesse Powell pushed out of the spotlight by an industry that didn't know what to do with a sensitive male vocalist? Or did he choose to walk away from the chaos? Because the truth is, the industry didn't lose Jesse Powell, it let him go. Let's talk about why. For years, Jesse Powell has been boxed into that one frustrating category, a one-hit wonder. You've heard the whispers, oh yeah, he had that wedding song, or didn't he sing You? And to be fair, You was the ballad of the late 90s. That song was like R&B's version of a warm hug. It hit #2 on the Billboard R&B chart and is still played at weddings, anniversaries, and emotional throwback playlists today. But what people don't realize is that Jesse Powell was so much more than just one song. That Misconception, that he came and went like a passing radio hit, completely erases the grind, the talent, and the artistry that defined his career. It wasn't just about a voice. It was about the integrity behind the voice. See, Jesse wasn't manufactured in some label factory. He was born in Gary, Indiana, the same place that birthed the Jacksons. And music wasn't just something he did. It was the family business. He was raised in a musical household, performing in talent shows with his siblings Trina and Tamara. It was less about dreams of fame and more about expression. Jesse wasn't trying to be a star. He was trying to be heard. His early influences weren't pop acts or boy bands. They were legends. Aretha Franklin, Donny Hathaway, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, that old school, vocal-first, soul-deep R&B that today's industry barely has space for. When Jesse moved to Los Angeles in 1993, he wasn't chasing clout. He was chasing purpose. He linked up with producer Carl Rowland in Kansas City, started cutting demos, and got signed to Silas Records under music exec Louis Silas Jr., a rare black executive who actually believed in him. Jesse didn't get in through gimmicks. He got in because when he opened his mouth, people listened. His debut album dropped in 1996. It didn't explode, but it made an impression. And then, when he re-released You on his second album in 1998, everything changed. Or at least it should have. But here's where the misconception starts to form. People think the industry embraced Jesse. They think he got his flowers. He didn't. What they don't know is that the industry wasn't ready or willing to support an R&B man who led with emotion instead of ego. Jesse was being himself in an industry that wanted carbon copies, and that made him a problem, not a priority. Let's just say it. Jesse Powell was a threat, but not the kind the industry was looking for. In the late 90s and early 2000s, male R&B was in its bad boy era. Labels wanted the next R. Kelly, the next Genuine, the next tank top wearing, shirtless on the album cover, I'll Take Your Girl prototype. Vulnerability, not marketable. Emotional ballads, not playlist-friendly. A man with range, restraint, and actual heart? Please. There's no space for that between thongs and club bangers. But Jesse, he was the anti-bad boy. He wasn't chasing the hypersexualized image. He wasn't interested in auto-tune gimmicks. He wasn't trying to outflex the next man in some macho vocal Olympics. He was just singing. Pure, technical, honest vocals. And in the process, he made everyone else look like they were doing too much. One of his label execs actually said it best in an old Billboard interview. Everybody wants to make the male vocalist some macho hard-nose who looks like he's about to beat somebody up. But if that's not what every artist is, you can't fake it. Every now and then, the nice guy can finish first. And that's the thing. Jesse wasn't trying to play a part. He told the Baltimore Sun, "Everybody right now is trying to sound like R. Kelly. Me, I'm about trying to be me. That's all I can do anyway." That was his stance. But in an industry that rewards clones and punishes originals, that stance had consequences. His second album, Bout It, was actually a solid project. Tight production, matured vocals, grown man lyrics. But instead of doubling down on this rare talent, his label did the bare minimum. There was no real promo push, no high-budget visuals, no tour rollout worthy of his voice. And while you finally started catching fire, it was like the machine didn't know what to do with it. To them, Jesse didn't fit the brand. He didn't come with drama. He didn't sell SX. He didn't rap over his hooks. He didn't auto-tune himself into oblivion. He was a man with a mic and a story, and sadly, that just wasn't marketable enough in an industry obsessed with image over substance. So what did the industry do? They left him to figure it out himself. And it's that moment, when you realize the label doesn't see you as worth the investment, that turns a career into a cautionary tale. By the time Jesse Powell was preparing his third album, JP, you could already hear it in his voice. On and off the mic. He was tired. Tired of the comparisons, tired of the copycat culture, tired of being in a business that cared more about sales than soul. He opened up to Billboard, admitting that even he couldn't tell artists apart on the radio anymore. "Everybody sounds the same," he said, and if you listen to early 2000s R&B, he wasn't lying. It was a wave of overproduced, radio-engineered vocals. Meanwhile, Jesse was out here singing, and doing it with a depth that didn't need a feature or a club beat to slap. JP was meant to be the grown-up version of Jesse. He had been through the industry ringer and came back wiser. He co-wrote the ballads. He brought in producers like Tim and Bob, Shep Crawford, and even his sister Tamara to help craft something authentic. The lead single, If I, was soft, heartbreaking, and intimate, a real R&B moment, and fans, they were listening. The single gained traction. Radio play was picking up, but just as the momentum started building, Jesse's label did what so many labels do when they don't see the vision. They drop the ball. Hard. The promotional tour fumbled. The music video budget slashed. The album push barely a whisper. And then came the knockout punch. MCA, his parent label, folded. Yep, shut down, vanished. And Jesse, along with a handful of artists, got caught in the crossfire. Imagine spending years perfecting your sound, building your brand, and just when you're ready to level up, the floor disappears beneath you. He told the Baltimore Sun that everything got messy. He was just trying to pay the bills. And that's when you know something's broken. When an artist that gifted is more worried about keeping the lights on than making music, you're witnessing a system failure. So Jesse did what a lot of artists do when the major label dream collapses. He went independent. He signed with Riviera Entertainment, a smaller label distributed through Liquid 8 Records. He even cracked a dry joke in an interview. "Now I'm in a position to pay my mortgage on time, so it's all good." Except it wasn't, because the damage had already been done. By the time Jesse, his fourth and final album, dropped in 2003, the magic was fading. Not because the music wasn't good, but because Jesse was running on empty. He had been let down too many times, underpromoted, underappreciated, undermined. He wasn't just dealing with industry burnout. He was dealing with emotional burnout. And slowly, he started to disappear. One day, Jesse Powell was on your radio. The next, he was nowhere. No farewell concert, no last album announcement, no official retirement post. He just faded out of the spotlight like a ghost, and nobody could explain why. After his 2003 release, Jesse, the industry assumed he'd eventually come back. Fans waited, journalists asked, R&B lovers clung to any sign of life, praying he'd do a Tiny Desk or a Verzuz or anything. But Jesse Powell didn't just take a break, he disappeared. And we're not talking about a strategic Beyoncé-style, go quiet to build mystique move. This was full-on vanishing act. No press runs, no collaborations, no remember me rebranding. The man who sang You, with that iconic falsetto that could crack the sky, completely left the building. Over the years, blogs, podcasts, and fan pages all tried to find him. Even RRG publicly said they reached out to Jesse and his sisters, Trina and Tamara, for an update. No response. Not even a, he's good, just laying low. Just silence. Naturally, the speculation began. Was he dealing with health issues? Depression? Was he blackballed? Had he left music for religion? Some even wondered if he'd had a falling out with family or quietly entered into a legal battle with a label. But the truth? Nobody really knows. And maybe that's the saddest part of all, because we're not talking about some niche indie artist here. We're talking about a man who sang one of the greatest R&B ballads of all time, whose voice defined an era of late-night slow jams. And yet, when he walked away, there wasn't even a headline. In an industry where some people become famous for being loud and mediocre, Jesse Powell stayed silent and forgotten. But here's the twist. Jesse chose silence. Not once did he take to social media to rant. He didn't chase clout or try to clap back. He didn't tell all in some emotional podcast. He didn't do the Breakfast Club circuit with a sob story. He just bowed out. No drama, no spectacle. Just a quiet exit from a very loud business. And for fans, that silence was deafening, because deep down, we all hoped he'd come back, that he'd emerge from the shadows with another album, a tiny desk performance, a vocal masterclass to remind the world why he mattered. But that moment never came, and when it finally did, it was too late. If there's one thing Jesse Powell never let go of, it was family. From day one, he was a product of his home. A musical household where harmonies were as natural as breathing. His sisters, Trina and Tamara, weren't just family. They were collaborators, backup vocalists, and fellow artists who understood the grind from the inside out. The three of them performed together growing up, hustling through talent shows and showcases before any label came calling. In 1997, Trina and Tamara had their own moment in the spotlight, appearing on the R&B hit My Love Is the Shh by Something for the People. The industry took notice. It looked like the Powell family was going to be the next big R&B dynasty. But like Jesse, their time in the spotlight didn't last. One album, a couple of features, and then more silence. More disappearing acts. The industry door seemed to close just as quickly as it opened, and while fans were left scratching their heads, the Powells just kept it moving, kept it private. And then, on September 13th, 2022, just one day after Jesse turned 51, his sisters broke their years-long silence with a post no one was ready for. Jesse Powell had passed away, peacefully, at home, in Los Angeles. There was no warning, no TMZ scoop, no flashy headline, just a single post confirming what fans had feared but never expected. The man we hadn't seen in years was gone, and the internet barely blinked. Even more haunting? The cause of death was never publicly released. To this day, no family statement, no autopsy findings, no funeral footage, just silence. It was poetic in a way. Tragic, but poetic. Jesse Powell lived quietly. He left quietly. And in between, he poured his soul into music that still refuses to age. His sisters, in their short tribute, said it best. Jesse loved music, and he especially loved his fans who supported him throughout his career. And that's really the heart of it. Jesse didn't chase the spotlight. He chased connection. He wasn't performing for fame. He was singing for the people who felt it, who needed it, who understood what it meant to cry to a love song at 2 a.m. and mean it. He was never about the gimmicks. He was never about the trends. He was about truth. And maybe that's why his death felt so personal, even if you hadn't heard his name in years. Because Jesse Powell represented something rare in music. Authenticity without ego, talent without noise, heart without hype. And when he left us, he took that kind of artistry with him. When Jesse Powell passed away, his estimated net worth was around $1.5 million. And let's be honest, for someone with a voice like that, it feels low. Especially in an industry where auto-tune warriors are pulling in tens of millions just for being viral. Jesse didn't chase trends, he didn't sell out arenas, but he did what most of those artists couldn't. He sang his soul out and left a permanent mark. So why does Jesse Powell still matter now? Because his story is a blueprint for how the music industry mismanages greatness. Here was a man who should have been on every R&B Mount Rushmore list. His voice, clean, powerful, effortless, was a masterclass in restraint and emotion. It wasn't just a song, it was the wedding anthem, the engagement backdrop, the go-to track for every This Is Real Love playlist. And yet, while his music lived on, his name didn't. The system that gave him a platform never gave him protection. He wasn't offered the mentorship deals, the branding endorsements, the comeback tours, the festival bookings. He didn't even get the late career resurgence arc that so many of his peers did. And let's not forget the biggest reason why Jesse's legacy is more relevant now than ever. Authenticity is dying in music. We live in a time where people are famous for sounding the same, where clout outweighs craft, where TikTok dances sell records, but actual vocal talent gets overlooked. Jesse Powell represented something the industry is starving for: substance. And maybe that's why his music still feels fresh. It wasn't built for the moment, it was built for forever. But here's the kicker: Jesse's legacy has quietly been resurrecting by the people, not the industry, not the blogs, the fans. On social media, you'll find comments under his videos from people who just discovered him. Young singers trying to cover You and failing to hit that falsetto. R&B heads tweeting about how underrated he was. And wedding playlists still adding You Like It just dropped last month. Because real doesn't expire, and neither do real voices. Jesse Powell didn't need a viral moment to matter, he just needed a mic, and you'd feel everything. So while the industry may have failed him, his music did exactly what it was supposed to do. It stayed. Jesse Powell didn't go out with a bang. He didn't get the award show tribute, the documentary deal, or the social media avalanche of fake love that so often comes too late. He went out quietly, just like he lived. But don't get it twisted. Quiet doesn't mean forgettable, because people don't forget the voice that walked them down the aisle. They don't forget the song that healed a breakup or held their hand through heartbreak. They don't forget the feeling of hearing you for the first time and realizing that's what love sounds like. Jesse Powell didn't need controversy to stay relevant. He didn't need beef, gimmicks, or viral stunts. He just needed a mic. And the fact that he still gets overlooked is not an accident. It's a symptom of an industry that doesn't know how to value purity, heart, and technical greatness unless it comes wrapped in chaos. So, yeah, Jesse Powell deserved more. More recognition, more respect, more support. But if the industry failed him, the fans didn't. Because real fans never stopped playing his music. They never stopped hoping for a comeback. And now they'll never stop honoring his legacy. Rest in power, Jesse. The industry may have moved on, but the people never forgot.